again for joining us. I'll make this quick. I'm Valerie Jones. I'm the director of the Public Insight Lab here at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, and an associate professor in the College of Journalism and Mass Communications in Advertising and PR. So we're kicking off the session today with 12 speakers. We'll pause after every 3 for questions. This is the inaugural workshop of the Public Insight Lab, and our goal is to catalyze interdisciplinary social media research through access to state-of-the-art social and digital analytics software, expertise of faculty and affiliates, and experiences for students and faculty to engage in social media research. And really, we just want this to be a hub for social media research on campus and help bring that expertise together across the country. So we are so happy to have experts from all over the place with us today. We have 220, actually more than 220 registrants. So that suggests that there's some interest in this topic, I think, spanning over 25 disciplines. And I think that's one of the things that's so exciting about social media research is that the data can be useful for answering a variety of questions. And that's why we've started with these flash talks today, to help kind of demonstrate why social media matters, how we can find meaning in the data, and the types of questions that we can answer from a variety of fields. So, again, we'll cut people off after 5 minutes ruthlessly, and we will pause after every 3 presentations for questions, and then again at the end. So with that, I want to introduce our first speaker, who is Dr. Frauke Hachtmann, professor of advertising and PR at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. Take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Valerie. I'm very flattered to go first. So let me share my screen here. Hopefully everybody can see that. I assume everybody can. So, okay, so I have 2 research streams. One is in crisis response advertising. The other one is about emerging media in sports. And so that's what I'm going to talk about today. And this is a study that I did a few years ago. It was published in the Journal of Digital and Social Media Marketing. And what's interesting about that publication is that it has an audience of both academics as well as practitioners. And so just keep that in mind as I'm going through this. But it's about one of the most successful athletes of all time, Serena Williams. And what some of you may not know is that in addition to being this most successful tennis player, she has also built a massive business empire while also becoming a first-time mother and wife. And she's sort of toward the end of her career, but everybody's hoping, and of course, she's really working really hard to win that last Grand Slam title, which would put her over the top. And so a few years ago, so anyway, so she's very much in a time of transition. And a few years ago at the US Open in 2018, I don't know if anybody watched it, there was a lot of pressure on her to win that last title. And in the final, she played Naomi Osaka, who back then was a newcomer, and things just weren't quite going right for her. She was behind. There was a violation, a coaching call violation that cost her a point, and the whole thing just completely unraveled for her. And of course, the whole thing played out in front of millions of viewers, and it was just not a good experience at all. She never really publicly addressed any of this in the press conference that followed, or didn't really have any kind of statement until months later. But instead, what she did was she focused on developing sort of a new sense of direction, and much of that was documented on social media and specifically on Instagram. So, oops, nope, that's not where I'm going. So this is her Instagram page. So I just pulled this yesterday, actually. So she has 14.6 million followers. And if you just kind of scroll through it, it's really a good variety of her, athletic performance, but then also her success as a business owner. She has her own clothing line, and then also her experiences as a mother. So this study centers on reputation repair in post-crisis communication. and specifically the rhetoric of renewal. And so what I did was I was trying to figure out how she used Instagram to repair her reputation and also protect the value of her brand, because a lot of that played out on Instagram and she uses it a lot for promotion and advertising purposes. So in terms of the method, it was a qualitative case study of Instagram posts before and after the crisis. So the crisis occurred in September of 2018. So I looked at posts a year before and a year after, and polled a total of 421 posts. And I should mention that this was before we had access to Sprinkler. So I did this manually, which was took a little while. But then I did the qualitative analysis of the post. And I also looked, of course, at the number of posts, likes, and comments. And then in terms of the analysis, it was really, I was looking at a categorical aggregation of posts related to crisis communication and brand equity, and developed themes from that. So here you can kind of see just the frequencies and averages of her Instagram posts during that time. And then I also developed these 6 themes based on the content of her posts, ranging from, really focusing on building her empire. She had just launched her own clothing line that's going really strong. She really won the hashtag game, and it was interesting looking at those, and I can go into more detail later, how she used those, focused on legacy building, sponsorship opportunities off the court, and connecting with sponsors and causes. And then I also pulled a list of best practices for the professional audience of the journal. So I think this puts me right at 5 minutes. So I'm going to stop here.
Thank you. You were right at 5 minutes, so I didn't get to share the applause, and I'm kind of nervous about doing it, so I might wait till the next speaker.
Awesome. Again, we'll stop after every 3 speakers, but we're on a sports track right now. We're going to roll into the next with Dr. Jason Stam, who's an assistant professor of sports media and communication here at UNL. Jason, take it away.
Thank you, Valerie. So my background before I went the academic route is working with Rivals.com. So Rivals.com is one of a handful of sites, networks that covers college sports recruiting. So it's football, primarily football, men's basketball. So I was in the middle of it for, it's been like coming up on 15 years. And so I still write a few things a week, but I know some of the interactions that goes on. These are 16, 17, 18-year-old student athletes in high school that are figuring out where they want to go play, play college football, college basketball, and also attend school. So I knew there was a lot of interaction between fans and these recruits, and this is before NIL. So I'd love to tackle this now that NIL has become a thing. But Dr. Boatwright and I at Clemson did this study. So we pulled over 6,000 tweets that were made at these are the top 5 football players that show that in the class of 2020 that made their decisions on National Signing Day, either in December or February. So we've got Justin Flo, Avante Williams, CJ Stroud, who will probably be starting quarterback at Ohio State, McKinley Jackson, and Philip Webb. Our 2 RQs were: how do fans initiate parasocial interactions with high school football recruits prior to commitment via Twitter? And how do fans participate in burging or corfing behavior on Twitter after athletes commit? So PSI is one-way communication. It's basically like a feeling, if you're the audience, a feeling that I know somebody, even though you don't have direct communication with them. Burging is basking in reflected glory. So that's like kind of enhancing your fandom. Like they agree with what they go to the school you want them to go to. Or corfing is cutting off reflected failure. So that's kind of like distancing, saving face when something doesn't happen the way I want it to happen. So PSI was definitely in play here, because in those 6,000 tweets, of the 5 athletes that we looked at, not one of them responded back to any of the comments made on them. And these were tweets that just included them. There were more tweets at them, but what we looked at was this, it was more than 6,000 tweets that included them. So these are some examples of the PSI things we saw. There were the themes that we did a thematic analysis. And so through our thematic analysis found the themes of pleading, association, amplification, criticism or trolling, inner fan trash talks. The fans were kind of bickering among themselves and kind of had roped the recruit back into it because it was a thread. That was obviously one of the features on Twitter is you can make threads, and preemptive distancing. So even before somebody announced where they were going to go, the fans were like, "Oh no, he's not coming here." Little Mexico Rich 6 up here said, "Oh, he ain't coming here, fam." They're already, kind of they're distancing themselves already from their recruit before they've even made their decision. But these are some of the examples that we found in the PSI themes, where again, fans were trying to basically insert themselves in the recruiting process. And they were roping in like coaches and other players and trying to get these guys to go to their school of choice. Some of the Bergen and Corfing themes that we found here. So these are after the announcement was made. These are the kind of how fans reacted to that. So we found collective success, anticipating future glory, capacity for the program to enhance ability. They were gloating over their rivals like, haha, USC. As you can see, Connor Morris here. So Justin Flo picked Oregon over USC. So, haha, sorry, USC, Oregon owns recruiting in your state. They were wishing success to the new team. They were lamenting lost opportunities, minimizing the athlete's decision or minimizing the athlete themselves. So this is really important, I think, especially as NIL, which is name, image, likeness, which just started last summer. The NCAA is now said it's okay for athletes to profit off of their name, image, and likeness. And so it's very important in understanding how athletes use social media, why they use it. That's kind of future studies building off of this. But this is kind of one to get us off the ground. This was published in the International Journal of Sports Communication last fall. And so following up on this, again, we're understanding fans as actors in the process, athletes' motivations, and looking at and understanding fan identification. So happy to answer questions after our third speaker here when it's my turn. But thank you very much.
You guys are all doing a great job of managing your time. Awesome. That was great. All right, our third speaker here, which also has a bit of a sports tie-in, Catherine Dunham from LSU.
Hi, thank you. Let me get my screen shared for you. Okay, can you see? Great. So my research really focuses on authentic brand activism, and I studied it through using Twitter data. It really started as a pilot study that I built on later with an actual experiment to kind of build up my thesis and now other research. So the point of this is a lot of advertisements, when brands are trying to connect with brand activist movements, sometimes we'll see them and they just feel wrong. And I think the primary example that I could think of was Pepsi with Kendall Jenner's ad, where she goes and hands a Pepsi to the police officers, ending this contentious police officer protester dysfunction going on. And that really rubbed people the wrong way. It felt very tone deaf. It felt just out of touch with everything that was happening. And I compared this to an extreme example on the positive end, which would be Kaepernick's Just Do It ad with Nike that really resonated with its target audience. With people who supported the Black Lives Matter movement, it really felt like something that was representative, and it ended up going on to win an Emmy. So I used this aggregation software and stuff to be able to kind of see the public opinion on Twitter at the time and to kind of see maybe why audiences viewed it a certain way, because we know authentic versus inauthentic when we see it, but what are those variables that really add to that? So I just kind of used the software as a test to figure that out. So first I ran a query for Pepsi, and I had this word bubble where you can really see the reaction to the Kendall Jenner Pepsi ad is very negative. You see a lot of talk about backlash, protest, Black Lives Matter movement, and all those factors. And you can see tweets from the tweets that garnished the most impressions came from a lot of verified accounts on Twitter, but you could see that it's really negative. It's saying how it was tone deaf, it's making fun of it. And this ultimately ended in Pepsi pulling their advertisements and releasing a public apology. in comparison, Nike, even though people might not have, there might have been a group of people that didn't necessarily agree with this, the target audience did. It really resonated positively with the people that were impacted by this and that supported this movement. So Nike really landed with the people the way that they wanted to. So you see here, a lot of verified accounts are reaching out in support. Overall, the sentiment seemed really positive. And this kind of led me to question, there's some data out there on authentic versus inauthentic brand activism and all the factors that could contribute to it. But this kind of helped guide me by seeing the public opinion. I was questioning, okay, does just a history of donating or a CSR history, corporate social responsibility history, is that, you know, one of the only things that's impacting people's opinions, or could it be other stuff? Because when I saw these ads and when I saw the things that people were saying, you know, about how Kendall Jenner was a white celebrity and she just did not represent the Black Lives Matter movement, she didn't represent police protest or tensions properly. I thought that, you know, maybe looking at in-group versus out-group models for advertisements that are supposed to represent particular social movements could be more beneficial and could really add to my research on that. So it kind of transitioned into that, but I was able to use this software as my first pilot study to really see what the public was talking about and what could impact how people view ads as either authentic or inauthentic. So thank you.
Thank you, Cole, Catherine. Great. All right, we have some time here. Oh, we're gonna see if this works. Yeah. We have some time here for questions of our first three presenters, Dr. Hachtmann, Dr. Stam, and Cole Catherine Dunham.
So Valerie, I don't see any questions in the question and answer yet.
All right.
Attendees, if you're having trouble posting questions, let me know. But I wonder if, since there's no questions yet, if we want to just go ahead and move on. And again, anybody who wants to post some in the question and answer, it should be at the bottom of your screen, and we can catch any for these three panelists or for the next ones.
Perfect.
The next question and answer thing.